All right, we should be live now. Cool. Think we're live. Does not look like I have the best internet connection. Maybe you guys can let me know if you hear me okay, decently enough. I'm in a hotel, so bear with me. All right. Oh, hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm doing this to test things out for tomorrow morning. Tomorrow I plan on doing a live stream for 8:30 a.m. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for letting me know you can hear me okay. Again, clearly I'm in a hotel, so bear with the audio and everything. This is really more of a stream of thought stream. Yeah, clever words there, I guess. But I'm prepping for tomorrow morning. I'm going to be here in the hotel. So I just wanted to test out the connection for CPI tomorrow. It's a big one, but we'll get into that in a second. All right, awesome. Sounds like everything is coming in good. Let me know in the comments where you guys chiming in from, where you guys residing. I'm currently in Philadelphia. I'm here for the AWS Cybersecurity Reinforced Conference. If you guys don't know, I work for AWS, so that's why I'm here. But yeah, so let me know where you guys are coming in from. If you don't know, I'm from Florida. I'm not from Florida. I'm actually from South America. A lot of people don't know that. Look at that. We got a surprise guest here. Look at that.
Howdy, howdy.
I wasn't expecting anyone to join, so nice to have you here, Hans. Last impromptu invite.
Thanks for inviting me. It's been, man, a crazy week. So,
dude, you're telling me I'm in Philly right now for the AWS Cybersecurity Conference. It happens once a year, so it's I'm tired. Hopefully, you can't see it in my face too much, but I'm tired.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
nice.
I definitely feel low energy at this point in the day.
Oh,
but
good.
Yeah, maybe we'll try not to bum the audience out too much.
Yeah, nah. I think we got good. Lots of love in the chat for you, Hans, right now. I like it. Yeah, someone said, "Who's the Amish dude?" I'm loving the beard, man. It's some of us aren't that talented, or we're not blessed with the facial hair.
I had to become almost 40 before it would look decent.
Jeez, almost 40. Well, I guess I got a few more years before I can maybe start to get something. How you doing, man? How you been?
It's been an insane couple of weeks on a couple of fronts, but yeah.
Everything good with the family?
That's one of those areas where, like, my family is fine. Actually, my parents and my brother and his wife and 2 nieces were in town last week. That was a lot of fun. Some other things are kind of spiraling that are kind of adjacent to us and affect us a lot, but it's a situation that I don't want to like expose people's business on live television. So
yeah, fair enough. No worries, man. Well, glad you and your family are doing good. Yeah, I guess while we wait for people to roll in here, man, God, so much love for Hans here in chat. I just threw a random invite out to a few people. I wasn't expecting Hans to be the main event here. This is amazing. I love this.
Well, glad that Hans, people appreciate it. So
I was gonna say, what do you have to say to your fans?
Thanks for watching this dork spew semi-coherent nonsense from time to time. There was one of those comments that you read the other day is like, dude, does this guy ever finish a sentence? God. I was like, that's actually accurate. I do have an ADD brain, and so I'll start saying something and realize there's this other thought over here that's connected, and it actually provides context, and I don't know how to swap from one thing to the other. And so I'll cut myself off about halfway through saying something. And yeah, that it was hilarious because it was true, and something I need to work on.
Yeah, no, that's one thing that doing these it'll humble you, but also help you sharpen your speaking abilities and help you get to the point, reduce the ums, uhs, and all the things that you want to work out of your speaking. Be comfortable with a pause of silence, right? A lot of that
Yep.
stuff takes time to learn and get comfortable with. Let's see, we got people
Absolutely.
from California, we got from Boston. Nice, my wife's from Boston, northern, Andover area. If you're familiar, I'm assuming you are. So okay, cool. Got Xander here. Cool. Let's see
Howdy, Xander.
here. Actually, did I just walked in? Uh, okay, cool. Yeah, Xander might jump in here in a little bit. All right, so while I got people in here, I'll throw something out here. So first of all, let me do a selfish pitch here. Hans, Farzad, Matt, I don't know what Matt's handle is anymore, but Matt from Rebellionaire and myself are going to be doing a live stream for the actual shareholder meeting on Thursday. So tune in for that. We're gonna co-stream it. Hans, you're streaming on yours as well, right?
Yeah, I actually hadn't really thought about doing a co-stream, but yeah, I definitely will.
Yeah, so it'll be Hans, Farzad, and myself. So you can join from any of our channels. It doesn't matter. We're just trying to distribute the audience, and so we'll be hosting that and giving live reaction of happiness or tears of sadness. So we'll see how that goes. But
We get to see
but
if Nick's lotto tickets pay off in real time.
what a beautiful yeah, you don't even know that's where I was going with this. It's funny. So Nick here got some option calls, some lotto tickets, and I was talking to our friend Xander here in the comments, and Xander joined in with me, and so we've got some options that will be big gambles, and we'll see how they play out. See if I can remember off the top of my head. We got some June 28th, I believe, June 28th, $185 strike price. They looked better yesterday. Didn't look as good as today, and we both kind of cost averaged them down. So I picked up another contract, and so yeah, so like Xander's saying here, we lose money together. So again, not investment advice. It's literally we're calling it a lotto because that's literally what it is. But I felt like, you know what?
I
Let's
almost feel obligated to buy like a 185 put just so that someone will win. Like we're guaranteed that someone on the call is going to be happy and someone's going to be unhappy. But man, I don't want to bet against. I would really like to see that. So, and I just have a hard time believing that we're not going to pass the compensation package. I think that it's very possible that we don't get the move ratified just because we won't have enough votes. But I don't even like, man, that'll be a sad world if we don't ratify the pay package, which, and people don't appreciate the fact that just because we vote on it doesn't necessarily mean it's a done deal, but at
yeah.
least Elon will have shareholder support. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll kind of talk a little bit real quick about why I thought that. So if you guys know me, Xander and I definitely got to know each other. I think a little bit more over the last couple of days when we were talking about what we are gonna buy, and I think he saw how risk adverse I am in comparison. But I try to stay away from call options. Not generally stay away from them, but over the last couple of years, I have. To be frank, I just got burnt too many times, specifically with Tesla. So I kind of wrote them off. I was like, all right, I'm done with this. I could have bought X amount of shares instead. And it wasn't until recently that I started to put more risk on. And so Hans and I were actually talking, I don't know, maybe a month ago by now, about buying some leaps. And I bought a one contract, I think strike 250 out in 2026. I think you might have bought something similar, maybe a little more out of the
I
money.
bought a higher strike. Yeah, I got a leap that was like a 400 call for, yeah, like deep in 2026.
Yeah, so you can see I'm I, I'm pretty risk adverse. But so the whole idea of just doing this lotto was I'm anticipating to lose this money. It's all in. It's probably like $600. I'm planning on losing it. but it's not something I'm going to lose sleep over. Especially in relation to my portfolio, it's nothing. But it seemed too juicy not to. One, it's just going to make Thursday that much more exciting, right? Just for the potential of it. But it's not just about Thursday. It really starts tomorrow at 8:30 a.m., which is, I'm going to try to do a live stream tomorrow. I guess I'm going to do it. But I don't know how it's going to work with sharing CNBC and audio and all that because I don't have my screen. So we'll work through that together. But tomorrow morning, we get CPI on the same day that we get the Fed meeting, on the same day that they put out their new projections for rate cuts. So it's a packed Wednesday before we get into Thursday. And so the reason I am feeling a little more optimistic right now about tomorrow. If you've been following this whole Fed cycle, you've known by now this guy named Nick Timiraos from the New York Times or Wall Street Journal, one of them. He's essentially been dubbed the Fed leaker. So when the Fed wants to kind of leak something out ahead of time before the meeting, they essentially leak it to him. He gets it out there and kind of preps all of us for it ahead of time. And the Fed's done this a few times. And starting yesterday, it was really weird to hear this narrative that if we get a at expectation or even a cooler CPI month over month than we expected, that the Fed may decide to do a cut tomorrow. And it's so weird to hear CNBC all of a sudden start saying this out of nowhere. And so my tinfoil hat said, maybe the Fed's trying to leak something and prepare us for something. And if you have followed me at all, speaking with Herbert, Brighter with Herbert, or even Randy Kirk, you know that I've been saying that when the Fed cuts, it's going to be unexpected. And so, this just adds to my lotto card. So if we were to get, say, a 0.0 month over month tomorrow, if something else were to happen, coupled with the 4% unemployment rate now, and you see what the ECB just did with their rate cuts, and Canada did their rate cuts, and if you take out equivalent rent, which we're the only country to add that into our CPI, that you can see we've been at 2% or under for the last 9 months, I could paint an easy story for the Fed to say, let's do a 25% or 25 basis point rate cut. Are you following this, Hans, at all? Like, are you tracking this as close as I am?
Or spend a whole lot of time just because, most of my investments are longer term. But I have, I just expect that there will be some justification that is cooked up between now and the election to cut the interest rates, and that way they can toot that horn all around the mainstream media about, hey, the economy is doing great. We've solved all the problems, executed the soft landing, and we're off to the races. Woo-ha.
Do you think that inflation would reignite if they start to cut?
I don't know. I'm definitely not a good macroeconomist. I think that we probably should start cutting at least a little bit. Really, the obvious question is, how much do they cut and over what time period? If they send signals that we're gonna cut a full percentage over the next year, and we're not going to cut any more than that, then that's a whole lot different prognosis for the economy than, hey, we're taking rates back down to 2.5% or 2% or something like that. I think if we got too aggressive with rate cuts, that we would reignite inflation. But I think that we could definitely take a little bit of the pressure off here. So it just depends on, once again, what's the rhetoric? What is Jerome Powell signaling? How hawkish is he? How dovish is he? All the stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm kind of the opinion that if they're going to do a rate cut, it's either now or July, or they're going to wait. I guess you could also make an argument for September and that really wouldn't be political. I know it's right before the election, but it's literally right before the election to the point where it would have no effect one way or the other. So I could see that playing out. But what about so you have a looks like Xander is getting ready to come up. So he'll be joining us here in a second. Um,
And he said that he also has some June 26 400 strikes. So
I know clearly I overpaid for those strikes. Let us know in the comments if you guys have any options open right now. If you guys are as stupid as we are, um, joking, obviously.
Mhm.
Well, except for these lottos, that's pretty stupid. But they pay out. Hey, that's a good time.
Mhm.
Let's see. Don't
Emmett
want to
gives
just
us all FOMO with his massive options gains.
no, right? Yeah, Emmett.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
People forget that he lost like 80% of his portfolio value before he finally hit big. And because he was basically playing options all the way from 2014 until 2019, 2020, and he had a pretty sizable account, and it had dwindled down to, I think it was a little under a million at its high point, and I think it the lowest that it got down to was between 100,000 and 200,000. So somewhere
mm,
between 80 and 90% reduction in the portfolio value, and then went to, multiple millions.
yeah. So uh I don't know if Xander's just being patient or if he's gonna his camera, if he's just muted or what, but we'll just leave it there. Xander, come off mute whenever you're good. But so let's just talk about Tesla real quick. Because obviously the whole point of getting these options, like you wouldn't buy option or especially call options unless you saw kind of a clear path towards an upside. So what are you seeing right now, Hans? Because obviously Thursday's a big day, and this could go really negative in many ways. Even if it doesn't mean Elon's leaving, the perception would be really
Mhm.
negative. So, what gives you the fortitude to move forward and actually put down a position for a call?
Well, you're assuming that I had that piece of information in mind when I made that decision, which I absolutely did not. I bought those calls before this whole shareholder vote had been proposed. And honestly, I don't know if I would have put it on if I had known that we were going to vote on this. Like, I didn't, the Delaware court ruling had already been passed, but it was before Tesla put this on the shareholder agenda.
Mhm.
And if I had known it was going to be on, I probably wouldn't have put it on at this point in time, just because it adds a lot of volatility to this thing. But the long term thesis that I've had for, gosh, a couple of years now, is that when Tesla introduced their free trial of FSD beta, that was, and it was something that was open access to anyone in North America, that was a signal that we were getting really close to turning on the money spigot coming from SaaS revenues. And so I wanted to be in a position to capture a move that would be started by the re-rating of the company based on new increasing, like exponentially growing recurring revenue coming from SaaS based on FSD. And so we hit that milestone this year, and the context around it was a little bit different than I've expected. And so I am kind of re evaluating my thesis to think, okay, is that free trial as big of a signal as I think it is? And I wanted to go ahead. So I just purchased, I think it's only one contract. So, um, it's not a big position, and it's not a big bet, but it just wanted to put a stake in the ground that kind of forced me to get a little bit more serious and to have some skin in the game on the prediction that I had made. Um,
So
but
let me pause you there real quick. So do you think are you disappointed with the adoption of FSD post beta going wide post the 1 month free? Is there any disappointment on your part with how that's played out?
No, I wouldn't say that there's disappointment, but that does go to the heart of why I need to re-underwrite my thesis, because I my initial expectation was that they would not release a free trial until safety was super solved. And that's the part that has not necessarily been the case. That they ended up needing, I think, more user data to finish solving the problem than I originally anticipated. And they decided that even though it was not as safe as they would like it to be long term, that by implementing driver monitoring, that they were able to have enough safeguards in place to be able to get lots of people using the system, and that human plus FSD was good enough to roll out widely. And so I am surprised by the rollout of the free trial this early in the progress. I thought that we were going to get a little bit deeper into it before they handed out that free trial. So that is something that I didn't expect, and I had to recalibrate on. And I think that the system is really good. It's progressing pretty rapidly, but I don't think that it really has all of the polish necessary for it to really hit prime time and for us to expect to see those massive uptakes in user adoption. And so I
Hmm.
think we might end up having to go through another couple of iterations. Maybe we need to get all the way to version 13. Like, I think 12.4 is going to be significantly better than 12.3, but it's going to take us another probably 4 to 6 weeks from now before that is really, really apparent. And then we'll have to go through that process again for 12.5 and 12.6. And so I'm thinking somewhere circa the end of this year, the quality of the product starts to look really, really, really good. And then at that point, what I'd love to see is for them to do the free trial again and offer it to anyone who's not currently purchased or subscribed. Even if they've already had a free trial in the past, they need to retry again. And at that point in time, I would expect the adoption to be a lot higher. And the other thing is, once the system is that good and it's that safe, then they have the freedom to really play with pricing, and they can just offer you whatever piece of functionality you want at a price that is, pretty reasonable, and they can really maximize revenue off of the system when they do that. And the reason they're not doing that yet is because the safety is good, but it's not double plus, way good. And that's where it needs to be. It needs to be 99.99999% safe. And so that's where I thought they were already going to be at that level of safety when they offered the free trial for the first time. And so the fact that they haven't been more aggressive with pricing than just lowering it down to $99, I think is a function of them, just not being quite as far. Xander, are you
All
trolling
right.
me?
Oh yes, he is. Xander, welcome to this impromptu live stream. Thank you for
Thanks.
having. I think you said you stepped away from dinner, so.
Uh, no. I just landed from New York to,
Oh,
and so I had to set up
awesome.
my whole thing, and but yeah, we had dinner and just walked in. But
Okay,
thanks for the
good,
invite.
good.
How's the audio? Is it
Yeah,
okay? Do I need to get my mic closer?
it probably sounds better than me. So yeah, I'm still in Philly, so we're testing everything out here. But Xander, so you and I have been talking a little bit about options, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe it- why why the lotto from your point of view? Like, what's the asymmetric bet that you see, or is it just for fun and like, why not? You're on mute.
Oh. It was literally because you messaged me, and so it's all your fault. If I lose money, it's your fault. Uh,
And if you
and
make money,
anyone
you're smart.
it's your fault. It's your fault. And anyone watching, these are we're just gambling here. Don't follow us. Don't copy us.
Yeah.
Not financial advice. But I think that it is unwise for any investor, any shareholder, to vote against Elon's comp package. So that data point, it's like, are you going to cut off your own arms? Are you going to shoot yourself in the foot? Why would you do that? It's illogical. So that kind of information doesn't, like you said, asymmetric. When you have this kind of opportunity where the market is, if you look at the options chain, you could see that the put premium is actually higher than the call premium. So on that side, if you just look at the money, even right now on the 170s. So in that regard, it's just a gamble, and then I average down, but then I liked your play of the later in June, because you might have the initial either direction. But they move slower. So like today, we had the drop from the stock price, and that the 185s didn't move as quickly as the 180s that I bought for this Friday. so those are down like over 50% immediately, because statistically the closer you are, the less likely that they'll get back to the 180 mark. So
time wise, close you are time wise.
Closer time wise, correct. Because we dropped to below 170. So but I think that I've been like you, traumatized by leaps from the 400 to 100 drop. I also had like 3 margin calls as a result of actually holding calls or making bad gambles. It was really selling puts that that caused. Yeah. So, okay. So you know that. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? About the mechanics of it, and warn the audience?
Yeah. So all right. So hopefully this is of interest to everybody. But what I would say my biggest investment mistake was getting too cocky with options. I had some really big success with call options in 2018, 2019. And that's when I was just dipping my toes. And then I discovered the other side of a call or a put. And, unlike life, the opposite of a call isn't actually a put. The opposite of a call is selling a call, right? So you can buy a call or sell a call. You can buy a put or sell a put. So there's really 4 ways to play options. Anyway, so I decided to sell puts, which is a bullish play to have, right? Because I'm selling a put. So I'm selling a contract to somebody who thinks the stock's going to go down. And I'm saying, I'll sell you this contract, no problem, because I think it's going to go up. Go for it. I receive all of their premium. And as long as it's above what the strike price is, I'm good, free, and clear. And so all that set up to talk to you about, maybe 2021, maybe 2022, I forget. It was pre-split. We dropped from 1,200 to 1,100 to 1,000 to 950, and we hit 900. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, this is a no-brainer. So I sold puts at 900 strike for 2 years out, thinking we're golden. I just saw this huge, 33% drop. Like, we're going to be fine. 2 years from now, yeah, that burnt me. That burnt me pretty hard. And so ever since then, I haven't really touched options until recently.
Yeah, and some of the mechanics are that when you sell a put, you're not actually using margin of your account. You're just saying that you have, or it could be a cash secured put. So like if you have that 900, 900 times 100 sitting in an account. So you're not actually selling or buying anything, right? You're not encumbering that money, except that it has to be accessible. But the way that you get a margin call is the value of your portfolio drops so much that the amount of money that the brokerage will give you or lend to you is now lower than that amount that you sold. So that's one of those things that when it happened to me, I calculated for it, so I had another account that had some leaps in it that I would be willing to sell, that were very, very in the money. But I did that on the first one, and then on the second one I transferred some money in. But by the third one, it was like, do what you got to do. So I really learned to stop being so greedy. I had leaps that were like 5x, some leaps that were even higher than that, and a lot of those expired worthless except for what I sold for the margin call. So I really learned to stop being so bullish, read the macroeconomics, and learn economics and how gold is, how that plays, how oil, how does rotation work from the stock market perspective. And yeah, so I've been dormant in the leaps department, but once we kind of went down to the 100 and then recovered, and we saw the 250, and now we're back bobbing around. Now it feels like we're going sideways, and it doesn't feel like. We can look at the chart. Oh, what happened to my chart? It's minimized. There we go.
Yeah. Just real quick, just to caution everybody. And this is from my own experience. Like, everything that happened to me, it's a blessing and a curse. Okay, so it's a blessing because financially we're still okay, right? Like, don't feel. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I wiped out about 40% of my portfolio, but luckily, we're still. This is still a 7-figure portfolio, no matter what, right? So things are fine, but it taught me a really big lesson, and so I say it's like a good and a bad thing, because on the one hand, I can never stop thinking, what if I didn't make that stupid decision? On the other hand, I do think I understand options so well now. Not only that, but the reason I really got burnt, yes, it was my decision, what was going on, everything, but it was, I remember clearly right now, it was December. The Fed had been saying everything's transitory. And literally, it must have been November. November is when I put on those sold puts. December hits, not transitory anymore. And ever after that, just the rate hike after rate hike, and you just saw everything down. It was like trying to catch a falling knife at that point. But the lesson learned there, arguably, is more valuable than any loss on a dollar side. But yeah, learn from my mistake. That's so hard to say, because I don't know if I really learned from other people's mistakes, because I've heard how dangerous options are and all that. And I thought I understood at the time. Hell, I'm probably making the same mistake right now saying that I understand, but I probably don't. There's probably other stuff even more so I don't understand. But all that, and this is actually the first time I've talked about this, but all that to say, if you're playing with options, make sure you're ready to lose that money. That is all I can say. Your stocks, your shares, make that you don't ever touch it. Protect that, because that's your future. Your options, I don't want to say they're always a gamble, because I don't think they're always a gamble. I think sometimes they're a very calculated decision, a more risky investment. I think that there's a place for that. It's not just that binary. The lottos, that's a gamble. That's pure gamble. But anyways, I'll stop. You guys get my point. I just want to cautionary, try and learn from my mistakes. If you can, learn from Xander's mistakes and try to, I don't know, don't screw up.
I've definitely made lots of mistakes, but one of the things that is hard to learn, like one of the reasons it's hard to learn from other people's mistakes, is because when you're observing them, you're usually not feeling what it is that they feel at the moment. And the pattern of events is not what you need to recognize. The pattern that you need to recognize is the feeling that you have as an investor. And that's hard to replicate just by observation. And yeah, that's when I've definitely gotten burned is, like, what does it feel like to be overconfident and to play off the risks, even when there are lots of signals around you that in retrospect, you're like, oh yeah, people said this, people said that. And I ignored those pieces of information because I thought they weren't relevant, and they actually happened to be relevant. and it was somebody sitting across the table from me who read the room better and made a smarter decision than me, and literally, took the shirt off my back in that trade. And
Mm.
yeah, so that's one of the challenges. I really love the books by, wow, I can see his face and I can't, Morgan Housel, Same as Ever and The Psychology of Money. Highly recommend those.
I'm actually reading that right now. The Psychology of Money.
Yeah, because yeah, they really dig into some of those things, and what things change, what things don't change, and some of the psychology of markets. And yeah, I love the thing that also Robert Kiyosaki says about, financial intelligence is learning. You need to learn accounting, you need to learn investing, then you need to learn markets, and then you need to learn law, because law is the rules of the game. And it's fun to learn about all of those things through the context of a really fun story like Tesla, because you do get, a good front row seat to each of those areas. You can dig into, because it's a public company, they've got great financial reports, and you can dig into those and you can learn how the accounting works. And there's so many resources of great content creators who are breaking down the financials and helping you to understand the way that you read and interpret and understand these things. But then also you can participate in the journey of investing in the stock and the ups and downs, and you can learn that way. And then definitely, the last couple years, like you were saying, Nick, has just been a crash course in understanding macroeconomics and
Yeah.
how you really need to understand what's going on in the broader market, because you can understand, a small story like Tesla very well and still be wrong about the big story that's going on around it. And that can, especially if you're making a bet that is time sensitive or has margin attached to it, or any sort of leverage, um, that you can really end up losing a significant, not just a significant amount of paper gains, but you can actually lose shares or lose a stake of ownership in a company that way. And then, yeah, now with the whole court case in Delaware, we're also getting a front row seat to how the law works, and or doesn't work, or can be politically manipulated. And all of those things are really powerful things to understand if you'd like to build wealth and be, a financially savvy person over the long term.
Now, do you guys sell calls against the position, and are you doing it now? Are you comfortable going into this vote?
I I have I guess over like the last year, I've sold call contracts way out of the money. Kind of a I don't know if you guys ever watched Tasty Trade. Kind of their concept of being at that like 0.17. Essentially, it's almost guaranteed. From a weekly perspective, and really just kind of scalping at the mark. $100 here, $200 there. But only when I feel like things have just been dead. Like, all right, we can stocks move $50 in the next 3 days. Let's sell some here. But that's about it.
I've looked at it a couple of times, and I've never, like, at the strike prices that I was comfortable to sell at, it was basically like nothing. And I was like, not doing it.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I've been feeling. So if I see a couple of days of red and intraday, so I don't leave things open anymore. But I will day trade call contracts, and if 9 out of 10 uh, purchased call contracts expire worthless, do you want to buy them or sell them? So that's why we don't generally buy, or at least I don't generally buy unless I see a recovery or move back up. So um, I've been selling, but this is my technique. People ask me like, is options something that makes you money, or do you just not tell us about the wins and the losses? So I'll run a report like every 30 days or so and just track it, including the losses. And really, majority of my trades are all selling calls, but they're like multiple times per day.
Yeah.
You know, it's anywhere from 5 to 10 times, maybe 15, just depends on how much time I have. So it kind of becomes like a side hustle, but it leverages my portfolio to be able to like have, my goal is like you were saying, Nick, like $250 a day. If I could squeeze that out, just maybe 5 or 10 cents at a time, moving it in and out. So, and I'm pretty effective in it with very high, like over 80 or 90%, whatever I put on my timeline. So it is something for the seasoned options people, and especially those with outsized positions in one company. It's worth investigating and kind of like doing your due diligence on. It works for me. That's that. I'll leave it
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Tasty's Trade is like a big YouTube channel at this point. If you don't know who they are, you should check them out if you're interested in options at all. But they essentially echo what Xander was just saying there, that they teach not to buy calls or puts, but they teach to sell, because the majority of option contracts expire worthless. And so you have that to your side. And when I say the vast majority, literally like high, like I think it's like 75 to 90% expire worthless. And so if you have that already as an advantage, and then if you look at, I think they recommend buying one standard deviation out. So if you look at kind of a bell curve, if you're outside that one standard deviation, just of you winning on that bet, that investment, are really, really high. But yeah, so it's fascinating stuff to look into. I wasn't taking any of that advice when I made my mistake. I was buying at the money, thinking that we had moved so far down and buying 2 years out, that I thought time was on my side. So I wasn't listening to anything that they preached. If I had been, then to be frank, I probably still would have lost money, but a lot less money. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about Tesla here. I know a lot of people have been talking about the shareholder meeting. I mean, what else is there to talk about these days with Tesla, right? That's like literally in the forefront of everything. But Xander, you were saying something earlier that I'm trying to understand where I'm wrong, and I guess maybe where you're wrong too. So maybe we can try to think through this. But my logic is, anybody who really hates Elon that much or has this animosity towards him, they're probably not shareholders at this point. Unless they're really, really massive shareholders and they're really, really down on their investment. Okay, then maybe they're just still holding on because they're saying, well, what's the point of selling at this point? But I imagine most of those shareholders are out. And if that's the case, then I would think the majority of the shareholders are pro Elon. All right, that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it, to your point earlier, if I vote against it, I risk losing Elon. Doesn't take a rocket scientist, no pun intended, to understand that Tesla's value is not in Tesla. It's just not. I don't care what anyone says. You look at their profits, you look at their multiple, it is not there because of Elon. In my opinion, it's not there because of Tesla. In my opinion, it's not even there because of FSD. It's there right now because Elon is the CEO. And people believe in FSD and Optimus because Elon's still that CEO. So to vote against that is voting against your own self-interest. And so when I think about that, sure, at the margins, you might have a pension fund here, a index fund here. They're trying to signal for political reasons, whatever, or trying to signal to their base, hey, we're not for this, whatever. But on the whole, in totality, it seems to me that it makes no logical, coherent sense to vote against. And for that reason, I'm fairly confident in what's to happen. But can you guys steel man the other side, like where this could be wrong, why that might not be the case? Because I'm trying to, and the arguments I come up with just don't make sense to me. It's like you really have to have some derangement syndrome and not care about losing your money.
Well, so there is a nice group of shareholders that the movement of Tesla doesn't make a whole lot of difference, and they actually have a decent sized share of votes. And I think we spoke about this a little bit before on Farzad's channel, but for passive index funds, they are not benchmarked based on, did the stocks you hold do well or did they do poorly? They are benchmarked on how did you perform relative to the S&P 500 if they're an S&P 500 tracking passive fund, or the Nasdaq, or whichever index that they're following. And so, as long as they are roughly equal weight with the index on Tesla, if it performs poorly, well, that affects the S&P 500. Like their performance as a manager doesn't necessarily get dinged. And that's one of the reasons that they run these funds, is even though they don't make a whole lot of money on them, that it does give them political power and influence, because they do, if you as a retail shareholder hold lots of these QQQ funds or these types of, passive index funds that everyone is pushing, that's the smart move. If you're a dumb retail person, is don't think, just, invest in the S&P 500, invest in the Nasdaq. That's how you make money over the long term. And, so there's a lot of people that hold these things. Well, when you do that, you give your right to vote to whoever it is who set up tracking index fund. And so that's why these, that's where these funds are getting their ability to vote, is that they own, large amounts of stock in every S&P 500 company. And then they get to have a pretty significant voice in the way that these S&P 500 companies or NASDAQ companies are run. I think those are the people that concern me the most. Like, I expect the majority of passive funds probably to vote against, because
But why?
because I think that they are subject to the political pressure. Like, those are the people that are pushing the ESG agenda, and Tesla's obviously highly unpopular with the ESG group.
But
And
wouldn't you say that the whole ESG, DEI, all that's kind of cancel culture, all that's kind of, you're starting to see like things really kind of move a little bit back to normal.
do you
Or am
think
I in
that
my
the
own
people
bubble here?
who do you think that all of those things were a smokescreen? Like, did people
Yeah.
hate Tesla because of those ideas? Or did people hate Tesla and they use those ideas as a smokescreen justification for why they hate Tesla?
No, I think two things. One, I think the whole ESG and all that had good intentions. Like I really do. I think it started off with good intentions, and then it became a thing that companies could use from a marketing perspective to signal. And now you have Philip Morris as like one of the top ESG companies. It's like, oh yeah, of course, Philip Morris. Everyone knows them for being, environmentally friendly and everything's good.
Well,
ExxonMobil, BP, like they're the best.
the best thing for the environment long term is for there to be less people. And what helps there be less people more than smoking?
Yeah, exactly. But so I think part of it's that, and to be frank, think of how, like I'm an Elon fanboy. I am. I can only imagine if Elon started to say things or do things that fundamentally I don't agree with morally. Like, to be frank, like, not to be cheesy here, that break my heart. It really would. I'd be like, man, I thought this guy I looked up to, I thought we were aligned morally, our convictions and all that. And now I think that he's changed. Now I think he's been, a little brainwashed by either another political party or some event that happened in his life or whatever, that now he's saying these things that I don't resonate with. Like, I can understand animosity and frustration and, people being upset about that. not saying I agree with it, but I could absolutely understand that. Like you have to not have a heart not to, especially with this company. Like this company, you're invested in the mission and the person, the aspiration. Like Elon's always talking about what gets you in the heart. Well, damn, like Elon gets me in the heart. So I think there's more to it. There's a lot of emotions tied into this company that you don't see with a lot of others. So I don't know, Xander, what do you think?
Um, I first of all, I completely agree. If that were to happen, I just don't see Elon changing. He's never changed. Like so, the people that you know might be upset with him going away from the left towards the middle. I think that I think he's being reasonable. He's not he's not trying to he really is trying to he's trying to make you that we can have a conversation with every from every angle. And I just like there was something I was going to tell you, which was like I'm an Elon fan, but I didn't invest in Tesla for Elon. I went 100% all in because of Elon, because I trust him with my retirement and with my money. So that's the reason I'm all in, is because I don't see him changing his who he is as a person. But what he writes about and what he posts and what he likes, like today we saw X, you'll be able to hide your likes, which made me think about how there's a person I'd love to see hide his likes. It's Elon. But like it's. If he wasn't around, would I be 100% all in? No, because the optionality of what this company can grow and become it's increased, right? That's the value that he brings is the new stuff. When I invested, there were no bots. That's new. So, but that's why I went all in. It didn't work out so well. For my cost basis is higher than the current stock price, but it's still I'm not like mad at Elon for buying X or or saying the things he says, because ultimately you have to look at performance. If the people are going to blame macroeconomics and interest rates on the management of Tesla, I don't think that's fair. I also don't think it's fair to take someone's compensation that was voted on and promised and executed on, and the value that was created, and then take that away. That to me is un-American, and it's a very slippery slope, and it opens a box that you do not want open, because now you have, if you're going to take and discourage innovation and discourage entrepreneurship, then that is the American dream. I mean, I'm an immigrant who has businesses in this country, and it's because of the policies that are that were put into place. You were going to say something.
Yeah. Actually, the three of us are immigrants, if I'm not mistaken. Hans, you were born in Africa, right?
No, I was born
you
here.
Just lived there.
I lived in Africa, but yeah, I'm native born. I'm like third generation.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, you don't count. Get out of here. Nah.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna ask. Okay, so Xander, great point. But I think what a lot of people will say is, well, Tesla or Elon, you can blame the macro, you can say all these interest rates, yet Tesla is the worst performing S&P 500 company. All these other companies are doing really well. Do they not have macro issues? GM's doing fine. Ford's doing fine. What about that?
Are they? I thought they had like lots and lots full of inventory, and all the dealerships can't move cars. But maybe I'm wrong.
But they're not. But they're not down, right? They're not down for the year in the S&P 500. I mean,
but they're not up for the last decade either. So
that's true. That's true. Well, they might be up, but they're flat. And GM's, well, I guess a decade ago, maybe GM was coming out of bankruptcy. Um, uh, but okay, so you said, and I'm curious, Hans, your answer on this too. But you said that you didn't invest in Tesla for Elon. What was the initial reason to invest in Tesla?
For me, it was
Yeah,
the
both of you.
financials. Yeah, it was the financials for me. In 2019, I started studying it very very closely, and then the Model 3 ramp. Um, I saw that they were going to become profitable, right? If you just looked at the trajectory from 17 to 18 through 19, they were on the road. So that's why I went. But Hans?
Yeah, I wanted to see the ramp of Model 3 kind of in the bag. And so I didn't invest before we got to, I think the four, at least I think we had passed 5,000 cars a week at that point in time. And it may have been, if it was any earlier, it would have been at least after we got to four. So I wanted to see that in the bag, but I was super interested in how exceptional Elon had been at driving engineering innovations at scale. And so
Mm,
that was a big, like, the engineering excellence piece was a huge piece for me. And so it was kind of the combination of, watching the Sandy Monroe teardowns that helped give me extra confidence. I think I invested more. Also watching, some of the stuff that Galley was putting out around that time around the financials and just helping understand the direction that all those were going. Cause I I didn't have a good foundation in financials and accounting, and so, his work there helped to make it clear for me, and I'm still sad that, he sold the, hyper charts to whatever that other company is now that has it
yeah, that was
and
a good
makes it a little bit
website.
harder to see. Yeah, it
Yeah, that was a
really
great
like, I
website.
like to look at, all the free cash flow charts and stuff that they would put together. And, but yeah, just like my background is engineering, had observed what he was doing for a long time. And so his exceptional track record, his ridiculously crazy ambitions, um, were already things that I had really watched for at least a couple of years at that point, not as early as some, I think I started to observe him more in maybe 2016 ish. I think it was around the middle of the Tim Urban, the Wait But Why blog posts that were coming out. I went back and started them from the beginning and then kind of read them as the last couple of them were coming out,
Hmm.
and just was blown away by the level that Elon was thinking about these problems. And so then I was kind of aware, but I was like, when I look at Tesla, they still haven't reached profitability, and if they don't, and he says that this is a hard problem, that's scary. So I kind of waited until we at least were on a good path there.
Okay. Yeah, my whole investment in the Tesla was because of autonomy. And to be frank, it had nothing to do with Tesla. I had lunch with the guy. His name is Jonathan Dow. He invented the concept of pop-ups. He started them in Manhattan, and the idea of a pop-up is like you have this blank canvas of a venue, like a commercial building, and maybe for 2 nights it's a fashion show, maybe for 3 nights it's a restaurant with some chef, right? And it's just this idea of these pop-ups. And I had lunch with him, and he was telling me how autonomy is going to change cities, roads, parking lots, parking garages, the way everything's going to change because of this. And just the conversation with him, it just opened my mind, and I started doing research on who's the leading company out there for autonomous vehicles, and that took me a rabbit hole down to Tesla. So autonomy was really my reason, and you couple that with the likes of Elon Musk, and science will deliver. The rest is history from that point of view. Um, Xander, I think you're gonna say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, but back to the original question of like, trying to steel man the other side.
Mhm.
I have trouble doing that because like when you talk about Elon and what he, what he brings, like the investing for me was, like something you said, Gally, Hans. So Gally was my financial guru that caught my attention. Then you had Dave Lee with the 10x investment, and so that kind of thinking, I've been doing that since I was a child when Microsoft was coming and growing, and I'm in my 40s, Nick, so I'm a little older than you, but I always said, like, when I have access to some money, I won't be like my dad and not take that gamble on the Microsoft. And then you see the Apples and the Netflix and the Facebooks, even the Facebook, like that's one of those most didn't see coming unless you kind of understood advertising.
Yeah.
But like it's as simple as that iPhone moment for cars, and that includes software as a service, and that's when you say autonomy, you're mentioning cities, but are you referring to the landscape of like
Yeah.
no more parking lots, or is it just everyone's going to be using robotaxis, and then which company is going to
Both.
lead the pack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fundamentally believe that we will redesign cities, right? I mean, like, there are many cities in Europe. Like, you can look at in Greece. Have you ever go to Mykonos? Mykonos town, cars aren't allowed in there. Cars park outside, and the whole city is just a city, right? It's just all walkable. And I can see a world where we don't need parking garages anymore. We don't need to have a parking spot in front of every business. We don't need to have like garages and houses. Like, the whole idea, our cities are designed around roads and highways, right? People choose to live in the city because they don't want to have to commute in and out from far away. But now that changes the perception. Like, well, what do I care if I have an hour commute? I just get in the car. I can have to keep napping or keep sleeping, or I can get some work done. It's like office already. But now I can live all the way out here, have a bigger house, more cost effective, have a little room to breathe, right? Flights, right? Why would we ever take a 2 to 3 hour flight, right? I mean, where we have these locked times I can go in. All right, well, I could just get up at 3 a.m., get in, finish sleeping in my Robotaxi, and then I get there and I didn't have to do security. I didn't have to wait in line. I didn't have to get up early. I didn't have to pay for an Uber. I didn't have to tip. It just, the whole way our lives will change will be just, and here's the crazy thing, with every new technology that's this revolutionary, we don't even get all the ripple effects right. So I can sit here and try to dream of everything. I'm not going to get it right. Right. Like with the iPhone, there's so many things that you never would have even guessed that would have happened, or just the internet, right? There's so many things you never would have thought of. Netflix with the internet, you just wouldn't have it. You had to have internet and experience to have the evolutions to get Netflix. Us doing this, a concept of StreamYard. Before the internet, you couldn't think of like, oh, if we had this thing that could connect everybody with computers, like you never would have had this ability to come up with these things. So what's the example of that with autonomy? We don't know yet, but it'll come, it'll happen. And to your point, Xander, I agree with you. If you look you can take the 90s, but I think for most people, look at from 2000 to 2020. If we look back, yeah, Amazon was obvious. Yeah, Google was obvious. Facebook was obvious. Tesla was obvious. Microsoft was obvious, right? We look back and all these things were obvious, but in that moment in time, oh, they're risky. Microsoft hasn't moved in 5-6 years. It's been just stagnant, right? So I feel that with Tesla right now. I feel like Tesla's that obvious company that we're going to be 5-10 years out, and we're going to look back like it was obvious. It was just so obvious. It was right there. What other company? NVIDIA? Okay. Besides them, I forget what the question was or what we were talking about, but that was a rant.
I did want to point out, DRK said in the chat that the Now You Know channel did a great series on how cities will change once we get to autonomy. And this was probably back in, I don't know, it may have been back in 2019 or 2020. And I remember watching that series, and it talked about a lot of the same things that you're mentioning. And they did a good job of at least breaking down the ideas for people and give them an introduction. Like you said, there's going to be a lot of things that are kind of knock-on effects that we won't be able to anticipate. But a great just guide for anyone who wants to think through that with them.
Yeah, Xander, you and I were texting this morning, and I was telling you that I thought the stock went down because of just before CPI and before the Fed, but it turns out there's this I think it was JP Morgan put out this note.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you guys make of that? I've been listening all day to Yaman and everybody talk about it, but curious to see what you guys think about it.
Remind me what was in the note.
Essentially saying that Tesla investors should temper their expectations about revenues from Robotaxi, still a long way off. And this was, I guess, after they met with Tesla's IR team.
The new person.
Yeah, exactly. They're essentially bearish. They have like a 120 stock price for Tesla, but I'm curious, was a no shit Sherlock piece. This was someone said in the comment. But yeah, I don't know. To be frank, I didn't really agree with it too much, but I'm drunk on hopium over here. So what do you guys think?
One of the pieces that I picked out of the note was, and the only reason I did was because I was like, yeah, I said that before too. And that was, a lot of people in the Tesla shareholder community are kind of butthurt that Elon is doing, like that he redirected some of those NVIDIA GPUs from Tesla to XAI for a little while. And, it was like a 1 month delay for at least part of the shipment, and then maybe up to 6 months for the other part of the shipment. And they're saying that Tesla, or Elon specifically, is conflicted in all this. And my point was that XAI is, it's not inside of the mission of Tesla. Like, Tesla has a mission. That mission is to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy. And what Elon is doing inside of XAI doesn't necessarily fit inside that mission. It's not the same target market. It's not really even the same technology. It's not the same go-to-market strategy. Like, it's all different, and it's always been different. And it's always been different in Elon's mind. That's why he founded OpenAI outside of Tesla in the first place. And so if, XAI is a second kick at the can for what he was hoping to achieve with OpenAI, well, if he, initially founded OpenAI outside of Tesla, then it makes sense for this to also be founded outside of Tesla. And yeah, I think people are, just talking out their butt.
Yeah, and when he gives justifications, like, I don't pass any judgment on when I hear any kind of unsubstantiated or insider information. Not the insider information. The anonymous source. That's what I'm trying to say. The anonymous source pieces. I just wait, and I just stay neutral. I don't. We hear this a lot. Like, Tesla bulls defend Elon. No matter what he says, he can't do any wrong. No, like, I think that it's important to analyze actual evidence. And if he redirects the chips because they can't get them started, because they don't have the factory space, that makes sense. And then once you add the cooling aspect of it, and they're building an entire wing of the factory dedicated to these chips, it's kind of silly to then get mad when the reality is they just swap places in line. That's like the smart thing to do. So I was good with it.
Yeah, so there's two, maybe three takeaways I have on it. So just to touch on that part real quick, I don't know why people convolute these two things. What Tesla's doing, what XAI are doing, are mutually exclusive. They're not even in the same realm. One is using GPTs that are focused on language, hence LLMs, to create something generative, whereas what Tesla's doing really is transformer light, to be frank, and is videos in, controls out, not words in, words out. It down in nanoseconds response time. It's fundamentally different. There's no similarity. People say AI and they're like, oh, It's the same thing. Elon's taking all AI stuff out. They're mutually exclusive. The other thing with the chips, people act like it's like I have a basket of chips that I can just hand over. Like these aren't chips. These are huge for you servers that you put 2, maybe 3 in a 42U rack, extremely heavy, pain in the ass to put the rails on, to rack them up, to cable them up, to get all of that working on a switch unified. It's very complicated, very heavy, very laborious, and if you're not ready to use them, then you're wasting money, is what you're doing. And I think people just don't understand that. In fact, XAI probably did Tesla a favor from a quarterly balance sheet perspective by doing that. It probably helped Tesla out. So I think it's neither here nor there. And then if you also think about it, it could have been Tesla's favor if XAI getting these NVIDIA H100s in means that a version of Grok comes out sooner, help, or they put it into a Robotaxi or into Tesla. Like we don't know those timelines either. What's happening with that? So I'm with you guys. I don't like when people speculate or have an opinion without having all the information. I think it's just very ignorant. It's in 2024 when how many times do you have to have like see gotcha or oh look this retraction or it's annoying. But the thing
Just
that
Laura Kolodny fed.
yeah. The thing that I really disagreed with it was we're not going to see Robotaxi revenue for a long time. And the reason why, it's not that I disagree with that necessarily, but to me, the second we start seeing any Robotaxi revenue, I think we really start to see it reflected in the stock. Because at that point, it's real. It's meaningful. It's out there. We're generating revenue. And guess what? Now we can actually, Wall Street can model this out. And so I think that is something that's really they're missing. And I'm also someone who thinks that we're not going to start off with the Robotaxi. I believe that they're going to start off with our cars, right? Who better to start off a Robotaxi network than the people who've been beta testing the software and they're the safety drivers while we test this out? Who better? Right? You don't start off with a Robotaxi and figure out your bugs. No, you start with the people who've already committed to this, the people who've already been invested in this, who already put the risk in this. You start with them. Then you've got this whole fleet of leased vehicles you've never sold. You can start with that. And then guess what? Robotaxi timeline is here, end of 2025, and we can start rolling those out. I mean, do you see it like that or do you see it differently? Put to both of you. The pretty one first. You guys figure out who that is.
Okay, I'll go. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Hans.
Oh.
I do think that my expectation is that the first Robotaxis will be in-house Tesla Robotaxis. And just for the simple like logistical reason that they want all the data and they want to have, vertically integrated end to end. I do expect them to roll that out beyond in an internal only Robotaxi thing over time. But yeah, I think the first ones, they're going to own everything. They're going to have Tesla employees in the cars, maybe even, well, I don't know, like there could be safety drivers in the cars to begin with, and then maybe that will migrate pretty quickly from safety drivers to doing the Waymo-ish thing where, there's somebody who's supervising the vehicles remotely, and then over time you even reduce the reliance on that. So I just from a purely historical pattern of Tesla making sure that they have all the data that they need and they're fully integrated and fully vertically in control of everything at launch. That's what I expect.
So is this like in some city or?
Yeah, probably, going head to head in San Francisco and Chandler with Waymo, more than likely.
Really?
And
I'm convinced they won't start anywhere near where they are.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was kind of with Nick in that it would be um, allow the users that paid for FSD join the Robotaxi network if they want, and then supervise it before they take the liability.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is possible that they'll start in one city, but I just don't. Yeah, I don't see it playing that way. Like, what is you were mentioning, Hans, is the vertical aspect. I mean, don't they have all the data that they need if I use the
I mean, it's a new
app?
service, and so yeah, like working out all the kinks in the apps, and the fact that all of the regulatory environment piece is already in place for operating in a place like Chandler or San Francisco. Like, there aren't new necessarily problems that they have to solve on the insurance front or those things in those areas, and they can just spin up the third, because it's already Cruise operating there and Waymo, like they're just another competitor, and then they can go head to head. Like, do people like our system better than Waymo? Like, how do you prove that you're better than Waymo, better than crushing Waymo in their own market? And then Waymo doesn't have a way to expand to other markets, and then you expand to other markets.
Mm-hmm. It's logical. I like it.
Yeah, I think the way I was thinking about it would be they maybe start in Austin first, and that's where they do it first as far as like rolling it out, just because it's the same idea why he wanted to do the assembly line for the next gen vehicle in Austin, just because they need to be close to it. So I could see it starting in Austin, but the whole premise of this was to not be geofence. And so this is where I lean more towards opening it up, using us. I mean, there's already a camera there that's going to watch us, make sure we don't screw up. And so, like, the safety of that is not an issue. Tweaks in an app, that is that is such a low concern to me. It's an app. Like, we know how to make apps. It's not rocket science. They already have the Tesla app. They do a lot with it already. Like, I think that is not going to be an issue at all. Um, the only thing that you talk about regulations, but again, you can go in Texas right now. You can go in Florida right now. Regulations are open. Do whatever you want. You can go to many cities, and it's free game. So, and I also don't think that they would want to forecast too far ahead what they're doing. But I do like what you're saying. Like, it would be taking the fight to them. If you can go in San Fran, be like, oh, well, we can go everywhere. We're already deployed. And oh yeah, we're gonna go this city, this city, this city, this city, this city, this city. Like, that's a pretty impressive marketing I don't know, marketing campaign. I don't know. It's interesting. It'll be. Do you think we'll learn more about this on 8.8?
I certainly hope so.
What do you think, Xander?
I would.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Hans. Finish your thought.
That was really that. Yeah, like, I would be very disappointed if we don't get a lot better idea of how we get from here to whatever the next phase of monetized autonomy is.
Exactly. I want the business case. That's what I want. I mean, the cars is good. I want to see it. Seeing the app and the demo would be wonderful. But really, what I want is the business case, because I want the Wall Street folks to be able to start, doing the discounted cash flows off of something and trying to figure out the math behind how big this can get. And I really think about all of those, those boxes of how big autonomy will be, and then how big the energy will be, and how big the robots are going to be. And so getting some numbers behind those, into those boxes would be terrific.
Yeah, if there's ever a time for Tesla to have a little bit more of a polished event,
It's on Thursday.
Thursday. That's a good point. That's a good. Well, Thursday should be easy. Yes or no? It's just yes or no. It's yes or yes no. No, yes, no, no. That's it. Yeah, exactly.
I think
That'd be
yeah,
hilarious
yes.
if they had
It's
Gladiator on
yes
the
on.
background.
Yep. Yeah, yes to compensation package, and then probably insufficient quorum for move to Texas.
Right.
Oh my god, I would love for them to have Russell Crowe just up there, and that'd be amazing. So, Xander, you have a Cybertruck. Does that mean is that your only Tesla, or do you have another one right now?
Currently have the Cybertruck, a Model X long range 2022, and I also still have my 22 Model Y Performance that I'm very reluctant to sell before understanding what happens with that business case we talked about. I've been thinking about just Turoing it or something. Or maybe even while the demand is hot, maybe Turo or a different service out the Cybertruck and then drive around if I need to go somewhere with the Model Y. So I haven't gotten rid of it yet, but yeah. And then I don't know if you know, I have a semi on order with my business partner. So still waiting on that factory to be built. But yeah.
I bet you could get a lot on Turo for the Cybertruck.
Yeah, I looked at the rates there. I think it's over 600 or so that you can get per day. But I hear I spoke with someone at the Cybertruck rodeo, and he's got a site where he rents it out for something like $850 a day. And then I've heard from a couple of friends that there's businesses that'll rent out your truck. I heard one specific case where it was $5,000 for the week, and they picked it up to wrap it for a week and then unwrap it. So it was like it's a whole like $10,000 ordeal for 1 week of Cybertruck use. So go figure. There's opportunity out there.
I was thinking about hitting up all the realtors and law firms in town and saying, hey, for the low price of $2,000 a month, I'll drive around all over the city with your name on the side of my Cybertruck.
Jeez. I actually just got my my reservation to manage my and it's just sitting there right now. I got it this morning. I was like, oh,
congratulations.
Yeah, well, I wasn't expecting that. What do I do now?
What was your when did you place the order? Like a week later, a little later?
No, probably like a year and a half after. So I was surprised that I got it.
Okay, so they're making their way down the list. That's good. That's good intel.
Yeah, it's hard
to
to
the
know
plebeians.
sometimes. Yeah, exactly. The mids. Ever since I heard I heard Chamath say mids, I'm like, my wife and I are always looking at mids. Meanwhile, we're probably the mids. So you have FSD on some of those, I assume?
Everything. Yeah, I have it on everything.
My man. So what's your take right
10.
now?
Yeah, I paid 10 grand on it. But go ahead.
Oh, hey, I paid 15, so don't worry about it. And then they dropped it right after. Right. What's your take right now on FSD? And then Hans, what's your take? Because I feel like I'm in a bubble. So,
I mean, I started watching some of the 12.4.1 and listening to how it's bouncing around and some of the regression. Or some of the unsolved things, but I think I look at what are the new things that it's solved versus what are the things that are regressing. So I think we're going down the path of the March of the Nines. Maybe not quite like knocking out those nines that you mentioned in the beginning, Hans, that you accused me of making fun of you for. But
accuse.
No, I think we're. It's just a matter of the next couple of versions, especially if you listen to some of the Elon posts and that's. I hear often when mentioning, when FSD is brought up, oh, it's been promised for years, but this is the first time where, I'm actually excited that the finish line is near.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so watching the rollout of 12.4 is really giving me flashbacks to just initial customer rollouts of 12. And I kind of had the lucky break to ride around with Bradford in 12.2 before it had even been rolled out to hardly any customers, and was impressed by it, but also, it made me feel a little bit nervous. And so I was like, oh no, like how hard is it going to be for them to really, take this big neural net and solve all these edge cases and make it perform really, really well and really, really safely. And by 12.3.6, they had solved all those problems and like beautiful. But it took them from like that was one full training run on the entire end-to-end neural network that they were working with that whole time. It was the same base model from 12.0 all the way to 12.3.6. And it took them that long to really put the polish on that base model. 12.4 is a new base model. It's going to take us a while to get that amount of polish on it. And I think we're going to go through the same process again with 12.5 and 12.6. And so but I think that the upper bound of how capable 12.4 is going to be higher than 12.3.6. So like we're going to get there. It's a big step forward. And, also likewise, same for 12.5 and 12.6, that each of these things is a step, and that each step is a couple steps back, and then like you may be taking 2 steps back and then 4 steps forward. And so I think that's just the way that this is going to feel from now moving forward for a long time. And so it's not quite like the huge step change that we saw in Mu Zero, where you go from, the AlphaGo version of your neural network to your AlphaZero version of your neural network to the Mu Zero version of your neural network. Each one of those steps just being like a order of magnitude improvement over the previous one, and able to solve problems way faster. That because of the nature of the FSD problem and not being able to fail 100% in simulation, having to do so much real world testing slows down those exponential steps a little bit. And so it feels like, you know, hitting the brakes and then hitting the gas and taking off. And you're like flying along, and then you got to hit the brakes, and then you get to take off again, instead of just this nice smooth feel of accelerating into, solving all the nines in that march of nines. That is just kind of a bumpy ride. But I think that the regressions that people are seeing now are like these are small bumps now. Like we are in a period of the pace that we solve these problems accelerating. It's just still a little bit bumpy.
Yeah, see, I'm in a bubble. I don't know. Maybe it's just where I live, but I swear, FSD, could it be better? Sure. It can always be better. But I swear, you could launch FSD as a Robotaxi right now where I live. I swear, like, I'm not making this. I did a live stream with my wife last week. Or not live stream. I did a recording. It was her first time on YouTube. She's been reluctant to do anything. She's a very private person, but she came on. And one of the first things that or not one of the first, but we eventually talked about how everyone thinks I'm full of shit when I sit here and I say, my wife refuses to drive without FSD now. Everyone thinks I'm making this up. Oh, we have this wife test, whatever. And she said, I mean, you can see her face. She looked confused when I said that to her. And I think because she thought I was making it up. When I said to her, and we're recording, she's like, really? That's a real thing? She was like dumbfounded by it. She's like, why? Like, I don't have to look at my phone. I don't have to think about directions. I don't have to think, where's that turn? It just goes. I just have to sit there and like enjoy it. And her analogy was like, listen, I don't care what any woman says who's married or has a boyfriend, they really don't feel like driving. They don't. They want to be chauffeured around. And I can't always have you with me. And so having FSD is like the next best thing. It's safer. I don't have to worry about idiots around. It takes the right turn. I don't even have to think where I'm at if I've never been there. And I don't know. To me, it's like if my wife feels that way about it, and to be frank, or to be candid here with you guys, she felt this way about the last version of 11, is when she really started to feel like that. And she would say, don't get me wrong, it's jerky on some turns, but I'd rather have a jerky turn than me have to worry about other people or me have to really sit there on one hand on the phone, where am I going? Where's the turn? Is this the right one? It's just unsafe. But I don't know. I think this is going to be a profound moment when you don't have to nag anymore because I think people are hypercritical of FSD because they're so in there with it. And so they're scrutinizing every little move. I had my friend Ryan. He rode with me with FSD for the first time last weekend. And I was like, go for it. You drive. And he's sitting there, he's going, he like took over a couple times because he got scared, he got nervous. I'm like, look, one, you did the right thing. Don't hurt my car. If you're nervous, take over. But just know, I'm telling you, I'm fairly confident it's going to do the right thing. So feel free to have a little more risk and trust it a little more just to see what happens. And you can see him build it up. And after a while, he was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And now he can't stop texting me about it. He's looking into Elon, into Tesla's investment, and it's just nonstop now with him. Like I'm constantly getting texts. I'm like, oh my God, he sees it. It's like all of a sudden it clicked for him. But so I don't know. I just think we're so much closer than people think, and I think not having the nag is going to allow people to see how close we actually are. But with the nag, it's hard to see it. It's once we get rid of the nag, it's like you get Mr. Miyagi'd when you're like, oh my God, I know karate all of a sudden. It's like, oh, my car knows how to drive all of a sudden once I just let it go.
That's a funny.
Yeah. But
yeah, I agree with you regarding the nag. I think once you're sitting there like a passenger, you still gotta pay, obviously, pay attention.
Pay attention.
Be ready to grab that wheel. It's your car and your life on the line, especially around like medians or things where a sudden stop would be bad. So that's when my hand comes up. But yeah, it's the whole nag, especially on long trips. It's very annoying. So it would be great to just sit there kumbaya.
Yeah, we did a road trip from Florida to Boston, and man, was it annoying. And I actually got striked out on one leg of our trip because it was like pitch black in the car, and you're just on 95 going straight, and it's pitch black outside, and you couldn't see me, and it's in there like it's flashing. I'm like, I'm giving it, but I guess I didn't give enough torque, and so it took it off from me, and I had to drive to the next supercharging station. It was only like 3 miles away. It felt like the most dangerous 3 miles. I'm like, I'm paying attention. What is this? This is horrible. But yeah, it'll be nice to get rid of the nag, especially to your point for those long trips.
Yes, something that people who don't have FSD don't get. Like we had a road trip planned to Chicago from Austin, and we wanted to take the Cybertruck, and we're not taking the Cybertruck.
No.
We're taking the Model X because there's no FSD. And anyone who's driven 1,500 miles in a row, it's a cognitive load to sit there and pay attention to all those lines and make sure to center your car. And that's just with autopilot can do that, but with all the interchanges and turns, and it really is the best way, and eventually everyone will have it, but they'll be willing to pay for the technology, but they don't know it yet.
Yeah. Hans, what's your status right now? Have you found something?
Yeah, I haven't found anything yet. I'm still Tesla-less.
Okay. I heard Xander's selling a 2022 Model Y Performance.
with 14,500 miles on it. Oh, wait, what do you mean? Aren't you giving him your Cybertruck reservation?
Hey, if I could, I would, but I don't know. I see. I have a similar plan as you, Xander. I believe. My plan has been the Cybertruck's going to be our main vehicle. The Model Y will be the business. So that's kind of been the plan. And who knows? Maybe they both will be the business, and then we just Robotaxi everywhere. But that's kind of been my plan. So I specifically wanted. I mean, there was no need for us to get a Tesla at all. Our vehicles were paid off for, both of them. I got rid of mine because we were never driving it, and mine was just a beautiful V8 GT Mustang. I love that car. It put so much work into it. I'm a gearhead, if you guys don't know. Um, but so then we just had her car, and it made no sense to buy a Tesla. And so my whole excuse for not doing it and not just giving into the urge was, well, we should wait till hardware 4 because then that will future proof me. And then hardware 4 came out, and yeah, there was no more holding me back. At first it was like, is it actually out? Is it not out? Got to look for the red light on the cameras. And then once that was like confirmed, I was like, all right, that's it. We're doing it. So yeah, so that's the plan. The other thing too was it. I can't, Hans. I don't know how you do it, but having FSD now and being able to go out and use it every single day, it's like there's no doubt in my investment because I can test it every single day, every single release. It's like there's no doubt. There's just no doubt when I can do it. And I'll sit there with my wife, and we'll be sitting there. I'm like, look around us. Not one other car can do this. Look at all this. None. Like, people don't know about this. Like, talk about the biggest like bifurcation in information from investment perspective. No one else knows about this. Even half the people around me with Teslas don't understand what they have and don't understand what they could be doing right now. Like, it's just insane to it blows my mind when I start to think about it.
Well, even so, like Liar's Dice there is saying that when he had V11, he had some doubt. And so even for people who can experience the system, if you don't have the understanding of the mechanics of how it works, it can be hard to interpret. And I mean, that's where I've just gone like incredibly deep on trying to understand, how FSD works in software. And I've had the privilege to get to talk to people like James Douma directly and pick his brain and ask him questions, and then watched, all of his interviews that he's basically ever done on FSD, um and tried to really understand the technology. And that's where my confidence mostly comes from. But like I said, I did have that kind of uneasy feeling of doubt when 12 first came out. I was like, oh man, this is the first end-to-end neural networks, and Elon says it's so great. And I see there's some issues, and I don't know how hard it's going to be to solve these issues, since we haven't ever figured out how to make an end-to-end neural network work flawlessly in the real world before. So is this even a solvable problem? And but then just watching very intently the progress of that into 12.3.6, I just felt like, okay, this is actually a solvable problem, and it's just a matter of continuing to take the steps. So but that is crazy. And it is something that I understand why people doubt it. I disagree with them. But when you step back and you realize how insane it is to try and solve a neural network intelligence problem of that size on such a small little computer in such a tiny sliver of time,
Yeah.
like, it makes what OpenAI is doing look like child's play.
Oh,
And that's
it
why people
is.
don't think it can be done.
Yeah. No, that's well said. And this whole end-to-end thing, people, to be clear, it's not like it's one model. It's using the whole stack, supposedly is using neural nets, but there's lots of models within that so that they can train those individual models, right? It's still modular in a sense, but it's all neural nets, right? So if not, like you wouldn't be able to do tweaks, right? You'd have to literally retrain everything to do one tweak. But there is like, yeah, you guys get it. Anyways, let's take this full circle real quick. And I appreciate everybody who tuned in for my impromptu live stream and testing this out before 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. But we're coming on Thursday. We got some big votes happening. Just quick takes. Which way do you guys think the votes are going to go?
Same as both you guys. Elon gets comp package. Probably, most probably, we don't get enough votes to pass the 50% threshold for Texas. Everything else, is moot.
Hans?
Yep. I'll reiterate that as well. I think it might be close on getting enough votes to make it to Texas, but I think we'll probably come up just a little bit short. But I hope that I'm wrong. And the one argument against that position is Tesla has been trying to get out there, and like there's been a real rallying cry for people to get out there and vote their shares. And I mean, even while we're here on this conversation, I was helping my father-in-law make sure he votes his shares. So, hopefully we'll get enough people out, and that won't be the case. I think that there will be more than enough percentage of votes cast that are in favor, as long as we make it over the quorum, that it'll pass. So I hope that's the case, but I think it's a good chance not.
Okay. So before I say my take, everybody, if you're listening to us right now, I'm sure you voted. The only thing I would say, which I'm going to do since we get off here, just go in and double check your votes. Make sure they're voted the right way. Alexander Merz has talked a lot about people accidentally putting their control numbers out there, and people could go and change it. Just go in and take that 2 seconds to verify. You would hate to see something weird happen. I am of the opinion that we're going to get both passing. I don't think that they went to this vote without a pretty high degree of confidence on which way it's going to go. I could be wrong, but I think they're going to get the pass. I'm not as worried, to be honest, about the Texas one, because Kimball and Elon can vote in that one, plus us, plus the top four, institutional investors it just seems like there's enough there to get us where we need to get to. I'm not too worried about Elon's comp. Again, I could be dead wrong, but I feel like you have to not like money and I think we all like money. So to me, it's like, it's the most obvious. It's what I love about capitalism, right? You say what you want about racism, sexism, about any prejudice you have. At the end of the day, people care about that green, and companies do not care who you are. If you're the best, if you're the brightest, if you can be doing things most efficient, that's what we want. End of story. And so I think with people and their investing their dollars, that's how they feel. They're not here to give up their money on some, I don't know, some political opinion or some, oh, he said this on a tweet once, or like that is not worth any of my money, I can tell you that much. I don't care who you are. Okay, so that's that. And then tomorrow, Xander, we kind of talked about this before you jumped in here, but do you have any thoughts right now as far as the Fed and CPI and all that tomorrow?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, as I was listening, I was getting my computer set up, but I was listening to you. So doesn't the Fed, Nick, you said they'll surprise, and we talked about this when we were doing our dart throwing lotto ticket buying. It would be great for equities if the Fed drops rates. It obviously wouldn't be a huge drop, but the sentiment shift would occur. But won't the Fed just wait for something to break or some kind of crisis before they do this? Like jobs or something going awry?
Maybe. I mean, there's a chance. I mean, there's 11 banks right now that are on watch for being dissolved. We already saw what happened last year with several of the banks. We see unemployment just jumped up to 4%. And beforehand, Jerome Powell kind of signaled that if it hit 4%, that'd be reason to think about doing something. We see if you take out homeowners equivalent rent, we've been under 2% for over a year now. So if that's what's keeping CPI artificially high, keeping rents up or keeping rates high does not help bring that down, because owners equivalent rent has to do with houses we own with the mortgage and what could we rent that out for. Well, that can keep going up, but that doesn't mean it's actually going up because my mortgage doesn't change, right? So it's we're the only country that does like this. It's you could call it somewhat flawed. You could also say that this is the reason why we tend to cut too late, is because we suck at this, because we don't exactly have the best metrics for this, and it's a little archaic. But Fed also has 2 mandates, and so that's the unemployment. EBC doesn't have 2 mandates. Canada doesn't have 2 mandates. It's just us. So I don't know. I mean, they have given themselves enough reasons to be able to do a cut out of nowhere. That is actually kind of how they normally do it, I would say, is they kind of do it out of nowhere. But to your point, something has historically broken. I guess nothing broke in 2018, but Trump put a lot of pressure on JP. So I don't know. You just never know what could happen. I think really tomorrow's about CPI. It's not about a rate cut. I think if we get CPI at expectations or cooler, you're about to see the stock market have a nice couple days. And so going back to our lottos, the way I see it, if that's at expectations or cooler, and you throw in a double yes for Tesla, man, it could be a nice Thursday, Friday into the weekend. Obviously, that whole story could go the other way, and then I lose $600-700, and you blame me, and you never talk to me again, and that's life.
Not true. Not true. But yeah, so the CPI. So we get data at 8:30 in the morning, and then what is it, like 11, or is it 1?
2.
So okay.
So 2 p.m. we'll get the Fed's decision. 2:30, Jerome Powell will start speaking for about 30 to 45 minutes.
Gotcha.
And
this is Eastern.
Eastern, yeah. Always Eastern with me, because I go off. It's not Eastern Standard Time for me. It's stock market time for me. The stock market opens at 9:30 Eastern, closes at 4 p.m. Eastern. So to me, it's stock market time. But
I'll be DMing you, and we'll be celebrating, or we'll be crying. One of those two.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'll be like I said, I'm just gonna jump on a live stream again. I don't have my setup, so I don't know how sharing the screen, all that's gonna work. I'll find out in real time with anybody who wakes up and joins me. But we'll see what happens. We can leave it there. I appreciate everybody jumping on to test this out with me. Hans and Xander, thanks for looking at X and taking on this impromptu stream. It was a
pleasure. Thanks for
great.
The invite. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is the first with this crew, so this is
fun to hang out with you both.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna end the stream here. Appreciate everybody who tuned in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Go check out Hans' channel as well. Follow Xander on X and all that other stuff that YouTube people are supposed to say. Whatever I'm forgetting. 2 hours in, and I'm just now saying it. So yeah, do all that stuff. All right. Cheers, everybody.